It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists.
Welcome to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the Naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Well, greetings and welcome into Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 29 today. Thank you for being with us. We enjoy this time together. We look forward to this time all week long as we drop a brand new show every single Saturday morning. How about that? Every single Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Hit Spotify, goes to the other platforms after that. A lot of people listen at 6:01. They're listening with us, and that's when we listen as well. So come on in. The water is fine. Hamburgers on the grill. The cooler is stocked. The pool is ready to go. And we are going to enjoy this next hour together, celebrating clothes-free living for all of the right reasons. Well, on today's show, we will speak to one of our regular listeners. Her name is Dava. She's from Tennessee. She's black. She's African-American, however you want to say it. And she wrote to us and said, hey, when did naturism or nudism go all white? Is there a place for black people in the world of naturism? Of course, the answer is a resounding yes, capital letters, bold print, exclamation point. And I asked her, and I said to her, why don't you come on the show and let's talk about this. Let's talk about what's going on in the world of naturism, particularly as it affects the black community. She agreed to do that, and we will play that interview for you in just a few moments. Of course, the terrific Lisa Monroe will be here, our weekly correspondent on naturism. She'll come dancing in, smiling in, and hopefully bringing some baked goods or some fresh fruit as well, as she always does. And the interview today is just a little bit different. Tim Chizmar, you're very familiar with him. He's been around naturism forever, was on our show a few months ago. He wrote to me and said, I did this interview with Nikki Hoffman from the Naturist Society. It's about an hour long. Any chance we could play it on your show? And I thought, well, absolutely. Anytime Nikki Hoffman is available and Tim Chizmar wants to promote it, we'll find a way. We don't hog the airwaves here. We are free and welcoming to everybody who wants to promote clothes-free living for all the right reasons. So on today's show, part one of Tim Chizmar's interview with Nikki Hoffman from the Naturist Society, and part two will be next week. But we are glad that you are with us, episode 29 today. And let's get to it right now. My interview with a Black Naturist, Dava from Tennessee. So let's go out to Tennessee this morning. A lady hit us up on Twitter. Her name is Dava from Tennessee, and she is a Black Naturist. And she said every time she goes to a nudist resort, naturist resort, whatever, it's basically tons of white people, very few, if any, black people other than herself and her guy. And as she put in the Twitter DM to us, she said, how did naturism get so white? Well, I don't know. So let's bring her in. Let's find out what's going on from Tennessee. Dava is here. Good morning, Dava. How are you today?
I am fantastic, friend. How are you?
Doing well. All right. So let's get to it. Now, you are a naturist. You love living clothes-free for all the right reasons, and you always have. And if you don't mind, maybe just take like 30 seconds or so to explain. You always wanted to be naked, but you felt like it was wrong, so you just didn't know quite was right. But at some point you discovered, being nude is a thing, and it's kind of fun and enjoyable. Maybe just tell us that story if you don't mind.
Sure. Like I always like to explain it that you know how some people say that my entire life I've gone through my life and I feel different than other people. I don't understand why I'm different.
Yeah.
I don't get that. Other people are away, but I don't feel that way, and I don't understand why.
Mhm.
And then as they go through their lives and they're still feeling different, as they get older, they realize, oh, I'm gay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I get
There
it.
you go. Yeah.
And that's why I'm different. That's how I was with naturalism. I
Okay.
felt different.
Yeah.
The way I looked at life and being nude
Yeah.
was completely different than anybody I knew.
Okay.
And then I was dating this guy. Of course, I didn't tell him that, I had these feelings just nude all the time when he wasn't around.
Yeah.
But anyway, um, he said, I'm going to go by my mom's house. You can meet my mom. I was like, oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And right before he knocked on the door, right before he got his key out and opened the door, he goes, oh, by the way, my mom's a nudist. I
Okay.
said, get out of here. He was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's going to be nude. I
All
was like,
right.
oh my gosh. We walked into the house and she was cooking and
Yeah.
nude.
Yeah. Just as he said she would be, right?
That's right. Then I mean, hey, you guys, come on in. Blah blah blah. I'm so glad to meet you, Dava. Come on in. And my mind was completely blown.
Yeah.
And I was just like, so this is a thing that people do.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Now I understand
Yeah.
who I am, why I'm this.
You had never talked about this with your parents or friends. It was just something you
Never,
kept inside. Okay.
never,
Okay.
never.
Wow.
And I actually, as far as my parents, my mother went through a period where she was not my mother was very conservative. She was super conservative. And but she went through a period in her life where she had an issue with her thyroid
Okay.
that made her not completely psychologically herself. And during that time, she was nude constantly.
Wow. Okay.
Throughout the house.
Okay.
She would be walking around the house and cooking, whatever she was doing, she'd be nude.
But she didn't know it?
And
She didn't know she was
she
nude, or?
knew it
Okay.
enough to walk into the room and tell my brothers, don't look at me.
Okay. Okay.
We're like, how are we not going to look at you? But,
Sure.
but I mean,
Uh,
I don't know if that planted a seed in my head. I don't know.
Hmm.
But I was kind of comfortable nude before that, so probably not. But anyway, um, when I came out as a naturalist, my mom was still with us, and she was like, "I cannot believe that you're walking around nude in public." And I was like, "Oh, mommy, you were nude all the time when we were kids."
Yeah.
What's
Right.
that?
Hey, that
So
works.
yeah.
All right. So, what goes on in the black community? As a black naturist, you show up at these clubs, and it's basically lily white all over the place. Very few black people. Why do you think that is? Any thoughts?
When I talk to black people about naturalism,
Hmm?
when I say I'm a nudist, because they have no idea what naturalism is. If I
Right.
say I'm in a naturalism, I live a naturalist lifestyle.
Right.
They think I mean I'm vegan and I exercise greatly and I
Yeah.
spend time in the woods and blah
Right.
blah blah blah. That's what they think I mean.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah.
They have no idea that I mean I live a clothes-free lifestyle.
Right.
So when I say, they're like, "Oh, you're a nudist." Only white people did that immediately,
Wow. Okay.
immediately. And I was like, no, no, we
Yeah.
have bodies. God created our bodies too,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with our bodies. Our bodies
Yeah.
are the same, except for it's just a different color.
That's it. All the parts are exactly
So
the same. 2 arms, 2 legs, and so on. Right.
that's right. We
Yeah.
both have a head. We both have feet.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
interesting.
yeah,
So you think within the black community, many black folks think, "Oh, nudism, naturism, that's a white person's thing." They don't look at
it's a
upon
white
it.
person's thing.
They don't look upon it as though it's a people thing. And hey, why don't we try it? It's just it's a white man's, white woman's thing, and let them have their fun. We'll keep our clothes on. You think that's? I mean, that's basically the feedback you get.
Very much so. And then
Wow.
also one of the main things that I get is like you like to say, "Oh, you like to go somewhere new? Oh, wow. Oh boy."
Yeah.
Like you like
Yeah.
to say, "Oh boy."
Yeah. You've been listening. That's right. They assume, okay, clothes free means wild parties, and it absolutely does
Right.
not. It means the opposite, actually.
Or
Yeah.
somebody, I told somebody that I was a nudist, and at work.
Mhm.
Then one of the other nurses came up to me and said, "I didn't know you were a swinger, Dava.
Oh,
I did
wow.
not know
Isn't that
you were a
something?
swinger. She just told me that
Yeah.
you and Big Daddy swing." I was like, "We do
Wow.
not. We are so
Wow.
not that.
Yeah.
We are
Well,
the
yeah.
exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
The exact antithesis of
Yeah.
that
I
is
believe
what
it.
we are.
Yeah.
Probably the more far-reaching, far-reaching
Yeah.
extreme of that is what we
Yeah.
are."
But they assume that you are because you want to be nude. They tie the two
Right. I
together,
just
and
they
it's
just
yeah.
assume that because I want to be nude amongst the other people.
Yeah. Right. Right.
That's the thing.
Wow. Well, that's what we're trying to dispel, not only with this show, but many advocates out there, AANR and other groups. And there are Black Naturist groups. I don't have the names in front of me, they're in the show notes, but there are groups that cater just to Black folks to get them into naturism. Have you checked those out? I know one of them is Black Naturist
What?
Association, for
There
example.
are
Yeah.
Black naturist groups?
Yeah, it's Black Naturists Association. That's the one I know about, BNA. And that's what it's all about. They get Black folks together and say, "Hey, nudism, naturism, the thing. Let's get our clothes off and play volleyball
Because
or whatever." Yeah.
anytime I have gone on the internet, try to find a
Mhm.
naturalist group, it always ends up being some hedonism situation.
Oh,
And
really?
I'm like,
Oh,
"Ugh, I can't find what I'm looking for. I can't find it." Don't get me wrong. Not that I don't like hanging out with you guys. I do.
we're just
but
people.
I really would love. I just think it would be beautiful to just see this. Just like I see, there's a nudist resort here in Tennessee in
Yeah.
Murfreesboro
Okay.
called Rock Haven Lodge,
Okay. Yeah, I've
and
heard of
I
that.
go
Yeah.
there. At least I'll say try to get there 3 times a season,
Yeah.
and super duper white. Every once in a blue, we'll see a brown skinned person come walk by. Hey, oh
Yeah.
my gosh! It's like you saw another two-headed person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so
Well, I'll tell
yeah,
you what. If you get down to Florida, we'll hit the nude beach or a resort together, and you bring your husband down, and we'll just have a good time to show human beings are human beings, not black and white or whatever color they want to talk about. And I do
a
have the
nude
website
beach is
here.
my dream. A nude
Yeah.
beach is my
Well, you got
dream.
to get there. You got to get there. It's the greatest event ever. I found that
Oh
website
my gosh.
as we're talking here. It's called blackandnaked.com. It's the Black Naturist Association. So check that out, but don't make it an all black thing either. Just like we don't want it to be an all white thing. It's a people thing. It's a human
Right.
being thing. Yeah.
I just think it would be so beautiful
Yeah.
to have just this sea of inclusiveness. Just
Yes.
everybody together. Just
Wouldn't that be great?
you look over here and there's a white guy and a black guy talking football, and
Yeah.
you look over here and there's two girls joking and chatting it up, and
Yeah.
one's black and one's Puerto Rican, or one's I would love that.
We'll make this the first step of getting there. It's not black and white. It's people. It's human beings.
It's human beings.
That's right. Dava, we have to run for now. We've been talking to Dava from Tennessee about this whole deal. When did naturism go white? Well, it's not. It's people, it's human beings. We are on to something here, Dava, and we're going to have you back in a few months to do a full hour, a complete interview with you and explore this a little more. How's that sound?
Fantastic.
All right. Thanks for coming on. Dava from Tennessee. And Dava, go out there and have a great clothes-free day, and we will talk to you next time.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Isn't she absolutely terrific? We bonded right away. We are just people. We are naturists. As we said during the interview, 2 arms, 2 legs for the most part, a head, 2 hands, 2 feet, 2 knees, and the list can go on and on. We're just people. Skin color does not matter at all. It should never matter, but it seems to not matter at all in the world of naturism. We just accept you as you are. You accept me as I am. The clothes come off. The barriers come off. And we just enjoy clothes-free living for all of the right reasons. And again, we'll have Dava on the show for a full-length interview in just a couple of months. Well, you are listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 29 today. We thank you for being with us. And now let's get to it. As you can tell by the music sneaking in on us, it is time for the great, the terrific, one-of-a-kind Lisa Monroe. And there she is right now, all extra nude and happy and smiling and dancing, the terrific Lisa Monroe. Hello, Lisa. How are you today?
Hello, Frank. I'm doing terrific. And how about you?
Not bad. Not bad at all. Just having a great beginning to 2024, and we are ready to go if you are.
I am ready to rock and roll.
All right. Little chilly where we are to get outside in the nude, but we have our moments where the sun comes out a little bit and temperature inches up just a tad, just enough to get out for a little bit.
This kind of weather tests our resolve to our commitment to naturism.
We just have to remember this. The next time we complain when it's 100 degrees, remember when it wasn't, as in today, for example. So we have that going for us.
I prefer the 100 degrees, so.
Absolutely. I wanted to get into this article posted by nudeandhappy.com. Mark, we've talked to before by email. And he has a website and a blog all about naturism. And he starts off the article by saying, as an avid naturist, few things frustrate me more than the unfair stereotypes and misinformation that still surround nudism today. Many textiles write off social nudity as weird or perverted without ever experiencing it themselves. It's time to set the record straight by uncovering and debunking the main misconceptions about nudism. I hope this post will educate textiles and encourage more open-mindedness toward our clothing-free environment. And then he starts off, he has 8 misconceptions. We'll get some today, and if we get them all, that's great. If not, we'll carry over to the next show. But misconception number 1. Nudists are exhibitionists. And I'll just read a little bit of what he said, and then we'll talk about it. One of the biggest misconceptions is that nudists are seeking attention or getting a sexual thrill from being naked in front of others, but true nudism has nothing to do with exhibitionism. Far from it, actually. And why don't you go ahead and read the next paragraph?
When I'm nude at a naturist gathering, I'm not there to put on a show. I'm there to feel free and unencumbered without clothes getting in the way of enjoying nature and community. My nudity is not performative. When nudists are comfortable socializing naked, our bodies become desexualized and mundane.
Certainly, there may be some exhibitionist type personalities who are drawn to nudism for far less sincere reasons, but the vast majority of us respectfully engage in simple non-sexual social nudity. We are not provocative while naked and do not seek to impose nudity on unwilling audiences. So that's misconception number 1 from Mark at Nude and Happy. What are your thoughts on that, Lisa?
Well, first off, I think there may be some exhibitionists within that take advantage of the community and so take every opportunity to post a photo or something. And usually they're not really doing anything, they're just there. And I kind of think, naturists happen to be nude, but I think exhibitionists get nude to promote their exhibitionist tendencies. So I think they use it for themselves as opposed to the reason we like to be nude.
Yeah. Well, that's why we call it clothes free for all of the right reasons. And
Yes.
I don't want to get off the beaten path and discuss the wrong reasons because we want to focus on the right reasons. But yeah, showing off and, hey, world, look at me. Hey, I'm naked. And kind of having almost a sexual overtone to it. We've seen people on Twitter, for example, or in the naturist community. I'm not sure if they're really naturists. I don't think they would be classically defined as naturists. I think they just enjoy being naked. I think they enjoy people looking at them. And I think in some cases there's a little bit of thrill. Hey, look at me, I'm naked. Oh yeah. Well, that's ridiculous. If you're a true nudist or a true naturist, that is not a part of the mantra at all, is it?
No, it isn't. And I think that again it comes to down to the fact that we have no issue seeing each other naked. Therefore, they take advantage of being part of this community because then they can get what they want, but they're giving nothing back to naturism. And so, you just, I've learned to scroll past, as they say, and because you see far too much of it. And for me, even one photo like that is not appropriate. So I'm not happy with those people being involved.
Right, because it gives the true naturist, the true nudist, a bad name, like Mark is saying in his Nude and Happy column here. A lot of people think nudists are exhibitionists. Well, yeah, because there are a lot of exhibitionists out there who call themselves nudists and naturists, right?
Exactly. That's why I kind of think the exhibitionist comes before the nudism. It's kind of the cart before the horse in some ways, and because they have this need to be seen and to be admired and to be different, so this is one way they can do that. A lot of other exhibitionists are, you know, somewhat egotists who project their voices or their behavior and maybe even not nude, but in this case, yeah, wrong thing, and it is bad.
Yeah, sad but true. And I will admit, in my much younger days, I mean, like 187 years ago, I had elements of that too. I enjoyed being seen naked. Look at me, world. And I enjoyed seeing other naked people. But, I've since, at least I like to think I've matured. There are people in my personal life who might disagree with that. And they still think I'm 12 half the time. But it's not like that anymore. It hasn't been like that for a long time with me. I just enjoy living clothes free, again, for all of the right reasons. We get into the mental, the social, the emotional reason. It just feels better, and you're not encumbered by the phony stuff of life, right?
Exactly. And I was the same way when I was young. When you're, you know, 15, 16, 17 into your early 20s and you put on a bathing suit and people go, "Ooh, look at you."
Sure.
Then you get that feedback and you begin to think the body is what's important. And somewhere along the line, I realized that's not the case. And
Yeah.
I never was an exhibitionist. I never flaunted anything, I hope,
Yeah.
but it's easy to fall into that trap, especially if you're looking for attention, if you think you can get attention that way. But
Oh
it's
yeah.
not the way naturism is.
No. Let's go on to Mark's misconception number 2. I'll read the title, and then if you'll read the first paragraph, and I'll read the second paragraph, we'll be good to go. Nudists want to walk around naked all the time. Take it from there.
Another misconception is that nudists want to go about regular public life completely naked. In reality, nudists understand there is a time and place for nudity, just as there are social conventions around wearing formal versus casual clothing.
Okay, and then he continues, at a nude beach, resort, campground, or other designated clothing optional space, we enjoy being nude, but we never demand public nudity be acceptable in, say, a courthouse or a fine dining restaurant. Nudists believe nudity is natural when agreed upon by those present, not that all spaces should require nudity at all times. And that's a good point. Again, if you're just walking into a restaurant saying, I'm whipping my clothes off and eating dinner while I'm naked, well, then we're back to that exhibitionist thing again, aren't we?
I think so. And there was a couple in England who, as you know, you can walk around in England,
Yeah.
naked. So
Mm,
they decided to walk around their community or a community they were visiting naked and then
mm,
went into a pub to have lunch.
yeah.
And in that pub were families who were having lunch.
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't anything that they were doing illegally, but they got into some trouble just from the public point of view in that they were pushing what they wanted onto people who maybe had not made that choice for their children.
Yeah.
So, there's there's a real fine line between what's acceptable, even if it's acceptable in a community, and what you really have to be considerate about and think what you should be doing.
I look at upon that as, let's just relate it to, let's say you're a big time heavy metal fan. You love heavy metal music.
Hmm,
And you're home in your basement and you jack up the volume and you're screaming your head off. This is the greatest thing ever. Well, then you go to a quiet fine dining restaurant, you start screaming your head off. Well, that's not appropriate at all, is it?
no.
Right. You just can't do whatever you want to do when you want to do it and where you want to do it. There are times and places, and I don't want to say rules, but maybe we can use that word, rules. And you just kind of sort of have to adapt to what's going on. You can't just say, I'm a nudist, I'm whipping my clothes off, forget you. That's not appropriate either, is it?
No, it isn't. I like his term social conventions because it's kind of what it is. It's sort of a cultural thing that we've learned to deal with. But he says something here which I think for me makes it very clear because I have a real issue with people formal versus casual clothing.
Yeah,
When someone wears blue jeans and a t-shirt into a courtroom, then I find that disrespectful
sure,
of the process in the court
sure.
and everything else. So the same way going to, a lot of different places. So there's acceptable things and some things are less acceptable to others.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. When I worked, for my career, it was suit and tie every day. Had to look as good as I could by societal standards. And then this one place I worked, they had a blue jean Friday. You could wear jeans to work on Fridays, pay $5 for the privilege, and then all that money went to a charity at the end of the year. Well, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. If I'm working, if I'm in the zone, in the mode, I have to be dressed in a suit. And so I would show up every Friday fully in a suit. Now I paid my $5 just to show I wasn't a cheapskate or trying to not donate to charity,
Hmm.
but I couldn't do it. I couldn't get down to just jeans on a Friday in the workplace. So yeah, time and a place for everything.
Exactly. And I went to a convention a few years ago, and it was casual. They said business casual. Well, that's a specific kind of casual.
Yeah.
So I dressed nicely in business casual. There were people there in sweatpants and t-shirts,
Oh boy.
giving presentations to a nationwide audience.
No.
No, I'm sorry. They might as well have been naked. It would have been more appropriate than what they were wearing. Seriously.
All right. Well, let's move on to number three from nudeandhappy.com. Mark put this out. Misconception number three: nudist venues are hypersexualized locations. And he says, since many non nudists presume nudity must be sexual, they imagine nudist venues as depraved adult playgrounds. But any regular nudist will tell you nudist resorts and beaches are profoundly normal, non sexual environments. And can you read the next paragraph?
Nudist venues have rules keeping overt sexuality and lewd behavior clearly prohibited. The people are nude simply for comfort and convenience. These are family friendly places focused on wholesome recreational activities in nature. In my experience, nudist venues are far less sexually charged than many textile nightclubs or beaches.
Yeah, yeah, very true. I know the first time I went to one, I was sort of expecting that. Okay, what if somebody puts the move on me and says, hey, big fella, want to have a good time tonight? How will I get out of that? Because that's not why I was going. I had no desire for any of that. Turns out, neither did they. It was just, we're here, we're enjoying the pool, we can walk around the campground, through the trees and through the trails, clothes free. And so, nudist venues are not hypersexualized locations, are they?
No, I've only have limited experience with them, but I can say that that's not the case.
Yeah,
And I think everyone who first walks in may have that tiny bit of trepidation of,
sure.
exactly what I'm going, even if you know what they say about it, is that just advertising to get you there or not?
Yeah,
And so it's a good place to be because you don't have to worry about that. One of
right,
the few places that you don't have to worry about that.
right. Yeah, I've never encountered that at all. Now, I did go to this one club. I've mentioned it before. Turns out, beginning 5 o'clock p.m. on a Friday all the way through Sunday night, it became kind of a swingers club. But Monday morning through Friday at 5 o'clock, it was just a regular naturist nudist resort. Enjoy the pool, enjoy the lake, and whatever else. So you just have to check it out before you go. But a true naturist, a true nudist, doesn't go to places like that and looking for action, do they?
No, they don't. And I think that's also why a lot of people are home naturists
Yeah.
because they don't have that confidence that they're going to walk into a situation with a whole bunch of other people and not have that issue. So
Yeah.
their fear may bring them right back to staying at home and just enjoying their own brand of naturism.
Yeah, no, very well said. Well, Lisa, we have to run today. We have 8 items to get through from Mark at nudeandhappy.com. We've done 3, so we'll talk a little faster on the next show and get the other 5. But it's always great to have you with us here. And we said it last week, but Happy New Year again. We're off to a great 2024, clothes free for all of the right reasons. And Lisa Monroe, thank you. Have a great clothes free day, and we'll talk next time.
You too, Frank. Take care and Happy New Year again.
All right, thank you. I am telling you, one of these days I'll convince her. I haven't done it yet, but I will convince Lisa Monroe. Do your dance to your theme song. We'll put it on video. We'll post it on Twitter, and we'll probably break the internet. Great dancer, loves clothes-free living life for all of the right reasons, always smiling, brings multiple rays of sunshine to the studio. And we appreciate Lisa Monroe very much. You are listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 29 today. And now let's get to the interview with Tim Chizmar and Nikki Hoffman. About the time we had him on the show last fall, he said, "Hey, I have this interview I did with Nikki Hoffman. Can we play it on your show?" And it didn't take me more than a nanosecond to say yes, absolutely. So let's get to it right now. Part one of the interview with Tim Chizmar interviewing Nikki Hoffman from the Naturist Society.
Hey, it's me, it's him, it's Tim. Once again, a nudist reporter, a nudescaster, as it were, for CFI. We've got Nikki Hoffman here. She is the owner, the operator, the editor of the Naturist Society, and of course, N magazine, which is it just strictly N, or does the N stand for something, Nikki?
Well, it used to be Nude and Natural, and then we just called it N magazine because it's easier to brand, just a letter.
That's what I thought, but I didn't want to say it and be wrong. I didn't want to say Nude and Natural, and you're like, that's a magazine out of Australia. We've been trying to make this work for CFI for a long time, so such a joy. This is a lot of fun to finally be able to capture you in a bottle.
I just wish I was in Las Vegas with you, though.
What? Are you sure? Have you seen the temperatures? It's like 100.
You're in air conditioning now. Tell me.
Yeah, I am here. But boy, when you walk out that door, it just hits you. It's like putting something in the oven, you know?
Yeah, we've had that for the last 2 weeks. So, yeah.
Where are you in Washington?
No, Wisconsin. Mark's in Washington. I'm in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
We just had that experimental aircraft. The Air Venture was here for 10 days. You don't know. Well, boy, I got to educate you, hon.
Wow, is it like NASA related?
Well, Oshkosh has the biggest airport in the world for 10 days every year. It's they have the warbirds come. We had stealth planes. Everything comes here, and they do this great big air show every night.
Oshkosh is the name of a city?
Yeah, Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
It sounds like a magic word, like Alakadabra. Oshkosh.
Oshkosh, bagosh. There were
I remember when I moved to California, I lived in a city called Rancho Cucamonga, and I couldn't stop laughing the first 3 times I heard it because it just sounded like a made-up word.
Oh, I like that too.
Rancho Cucamonga. But let's start at the beginning. I've got questions, I've got topics, but in the very beginning, so I know that there was some friction when the Naturist Society got started versus ANR, because ANR had already existed. So my question is, were you involved in ANR and then felt like
No.
there needed to be a different somebody to facilitate the non-owned lands?
Well, Lee Baxendall founded the Naturist Society, and that was in 1980, and I came to work for him in 1983. And it's a cute story, by the way. But he felt that there should be more than naturists, and he always said behind walls.
Yeah.
And our country is surrounded by water. We should have places that we can go. And he liked he summered on Truro Beach, and thought, what a great place. So he got together with a group in California, and they started with National Nude Day in the beginning. And then that was so popular, worked so well, and they did it simultaneously, East Coast, West Coast, that they moved into a weekend. And then when I came along, I'm like, come on, let's do it for a whole week and get the clubs involved. So we started doing it for a whole week, and kind of the rest is history. So we've been doing Nude Rec Week since 1981, well, the day, and then weekend and week. So, yes. I know I was not an ANR member.
No, okay. Well, what and obviously these days it seems like it's interchangeable, that the ANR and TNS works well together, that the people are on both boards, both committees, directors, etc. So it seems to be very, very hand in hand. Has it just been a changing of the people, the society over time, or was there a moment where people really came together?
Well, Lee had, whoever was the executive director at ANR, and the one I remember the most was Arne Erickson, and they always had meetings. They had the Tanner meetings which was a trade association for nude recreation. And Lee, along with Glenn Stout, started those. So ANR people were there and TNS people were there. And we don't very often do events together because it's a little bit hard. We have different philosophy on what should be done and stuff. And we always, our gatherings, we've always included all of our members. We never had secret meetings or anything. It was just like everybody comes together, we do workshops, we play, we dance, everything. And we're just thinking about doing a woman's retreat, which we've never done before. We're thinking about doing that, and that would be an ANR TNS combined event. And I think that's positive.
I bet you Linda Weber would be all over that.
Yep. It's going to be in Florida, and our board chair, Norma Mitchell, who used to be the owner. I was just going to tell you the name of the place in Union City. We had several gatherings there, but she's in Florida now, so she's going to be heading up our contingency, and then Joan Harris will do it for ANR. So it'll be fun.
What is your official title? Who are you for TNS?
I'm the executive director, and I'm also the magazine editor, the N magazine editor. So I wear two hats.
That's great. Now, I discovered your magazine, which, before I jump, has the magazine always existed as a part of TNS, or was there a time where they introduced that?
It started in 1981, and it started in 73, 74, 75, and 76. Lee did a tabloid, like a newspaper thing. And then in 81, he produced the first issue. It was called Clothed with the Sun. And we did Clothed with the Sun for probably 20 years, and then we changed it to Nude Natural, and then pretty soon it was just N, because it's hard to print an N with a nude and natural in it. It didn't look great, so we came off with N.
Well, so my background was I discovered nudism. I saw a little clip of there was an episode of Unsolved Mysteries that had some criminal who was hiding at a nudist resort.
Yes.
So as a very young child, that was my first introduction to the concept of it. And I said to myself, that sounds great. That's something we could do. And of course, I was in Pennsylvania, and there was no nudists or nude resorts or nude events or around where I grew up. So it was, you might as well say, people live on Mars. So I heard about it and I was like, that just seems normal. Like that would be great. And it wasn't until I went to college and I was an art student and I had people who would pose nude for my art classes that I then signed up to pose nude because it was a bucket list thing and I wanted to experience this. And immediately I was comfortable and happy with it. And that's when I looked into the closest nude resort nearby, which was Whitethorn Lodge in Darlington, Pennsylvania. That was the first one I ever went to. But your magazine was available at the bookstore at the time. It was Borders Books. Yep. And so I would buy it there. I think they put a paper on the cover so that you couldn't see the nude body.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. But I had
the porno books were there, weren't they?
Yeah, the porn books were there. Yeah. And it was in the same section. Yeah. Which anyway, so I want to ask you about this because it was urban legend and I want to know the truth. I heard that the magazine stopped being distributed by Borders Books because you guys refused to not put naked people on the cover. And that was too much of an issue for them. What? That's what I heard.
No, we stopped selling to bookstores because they wanted us to do like they did. Remember how when they started putting Playboy in a opaque envelope so that you couldn't see what was on the cover?
Yeah.
And Lee was like, no, we're putting naked people on the cover. In fact, if you look back, I don't believe that we ever had a cover that didn't have naked people on it, ever.
Well, that's my question.
Yeah.
Did you ever consider not putting naked people on the cover just to make them happy for distribution?
No, because we didn't make money on those magazines.
Really?
Well, say we sent, I want to say Barnes & Nobles was our biggest seller, and we would send them like maybe 800 magazines.
Yeah.
And then they distributed them to their stores. And then whatever didn't sell, they threw and didn't pay us.
What?
Yeah. Well, if they mailed them back to us, we couldn't sell them because they were damaged anyway. So they would throw them away, and we actually lost thousands of dollars selling to bookstores. And as much as I'd love to have it in bookstores again,
Yeah.
I don't want to lose money on it.
No, that sounds ridiculous. We deal with a similar thing in film distribution. I work in publishing myself, books and comics and movies. With movies, if we do a deal with Walmart and we send all our units there, anything that doesn't get sold, they make us pay and buy them back.
Yeah. It's like, no. And they would send us mastheads, just the covers of the magazine.
Yeah.
They'd send it back to us, and then we'd owe them money. And it was like, no. So I finally convinced Lee that we shouldn't do that.
I understand.
And, you can't keep losing money and stay in business. So
no, that's not how this works. I have to hit you with this because everybody wants to hear the coming out story. Christians and nudists together love to hear how you got converted. So, did you grow up in a nudist family? When did you discover nudism?
No, I know that my dad had old nudist magazines in the bedroom because I went in there one day and I saw them, and it was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. I actually grew up in the Midwest, and in the Midwest, nobody takes their clothes off. It's really terrible. But I married a man, and we lived on a farm. And like, I got home from work and I took off my clothes. It's like, I don't want to wear clothes if I don't have to. So back in 1982, I had 2 girlfriends who worked for Lee, and he was taking them on a windjammer cruise. And they had what is called the bachelorette quarters, and they had a bed extra, and they offered me to go on this nude cruise. And sure, I'll go on this nude cruise. And they were friends, and none of them were naturists at all. So I was with them most of the time. And the one regret that I have is that I didn't get nude on that cruise. I got nude in the water, but that was it. But the last night on board the ship, Lee sat down and talked to me, and he said, would you ever consider working for the Naturist Society? And I thought he was kidding. And I said, yeah. And that was in November of 1982, and I started working on April Fool's Day in 1983.
Wow.
So, yeah, I came back, and he called up and he said, I got a job open. Are you ready to come and talk to me? And I said, sure. So I started out answering letters for Lee. The day after I started, he went to Truro for 3 months, and I had to handle all the correspondence. I had to mail him proofs from the magazine and back and forth. And he came back, and I've done everything in the office, from answering letters to mailing out merchandise to editing the magazine. So I've done it all.
Wow.
And I love it.
How many members are on the staff these days?
We're way down in numbers right now. We actually have 3 full-time and 1 part-time, but we had a change in postage have gone up just exponentially in paper and everything. So we actually found a company that'll mail the magazine, the bulk ones, when we do the big mailing. So we don't have to do that in-house anymore. So I have a layout person. I have Carmen does advertising and media, and we have somebody that enters orders, and me. So I still do a little of everything.
This reminds me of something I was going to ask you about, because the world has, and I'm shocked. I never would have guessed that it would go this way, but it seems like things are getting more and more conservative, like more and more, like people are afraid, especially when it comes to nudity. And so the fact that there are families in the magazine, is that becoming an issue with mailing across state lines, that sort of, like, for example, is this considered porn in Utah?
Now, the only place we have trouble is in the Southeast, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama. That we have trouble with that. And they open our magazines from time to time. I don't know what they're going to do now, because we just went to a plastic bag for mailing because paper's so hard to come by. We couldn't get our envelopes. So the company that is mailing for us said, well, we can do these opaque. I said, as long as they can't see nudity through it, I don't care. So I don't know how that's going to work, because from time to time, the post office opens our mail to inspect it. And I don't know how they can open plastic bags and seal them back up. So it's going to be a learning experience.
I get so angry that people loop in nudity with sexuality, and it doesn't matter how much we say about it. They in their heads, if you're naked, you're only showering or having sex, and so it must be sexual, or they turn it into some kind of kink or fetish. And that's Stefan Duchesne on the Naturist Living Show podcast talks about this at length with people, about how you could fetishize anything. You know what I mean? You could turn anything into some kind of creepy turn on. So the fact that these people are non-sexual and being alive, I always say if God wanted us to be naked, we would have been born that way.
Yeah, exactly. And I have come across nothing much has changed in the 40 years that I've worked there. It's so disappointing. In that, if I do interviews over Nude Recreation Week, they ask the same stupid questions and I answer the same way. I used to have a really good guy from Missouri, and he always called up and he asked great questions and would come back at, if somebody would call in, he'd say, Nikki, I don't know if you're going to want to take this. And I'm like, no, I'll take it. It's okay.
Yeah.
We have to answer them honestly. And do we have fun? Yeah. Do husbands and wives still find each other attractive when they're naked together? Yeah, it's context. It's totally different. Being at a nude beach is not a romantic place to be unless it's in the evening and you have all your clothes on and you're drinking wine. It's like that's not what it's about. It's about
it is literally demonizing of other. They don't know what they're talking about. Somebody who tells me that nudists are all perverts and weirdos, they literally don't know any nudists. They don't know what we're talking about. They say that it's some perverted land, and then all I say is, have you ever been to a nude resort? Have you ever been to a nude beach? Have you ever been to a social nude gathering? No. Well, then you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Well, Tim, they probably do know somebody that's a nudist, but they won't tell them.
That is very true. I am actively involved in some political things here in Nevada, and I am open that I'm a nudist. I always say nudists shouldn't be in the closet. That's where clothes is. So I'm pretty open about being a nudist. And when I go to these events, I look around. Guess what? There's probably 5 people that I've seen at nude events, but they don't say anything, and I'm not going to blow their cover. But I'm not the only nudist in the room, but I'm the only nudist who says I'm a nudist.
Yes. And it was, when I first started working at the Nature Society, my children were maybe 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. So they had them in graduate age, and they were always like, Mom, don't tell anybody. Yeah. So when my kids got into high school, I'm doing for parent-teacher conferences. Well, one of the teachers is a member. Yeah. All in that, and he's like, so where do you work, Nikki? And I said, well, I work at the Naturist Society. I'm the editor of N Magazine. And he went, oh.
Yeah.
So there are people, like sitting in an airplane. I love it because I'm sitting next to a conservative woman and I pull out N Magazine and I start reading it. And pretty soon I get some questions, and
sure.
Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't go well, but I don't care. I can't get fired from my job for admitting I'm a naturist. So
I am uncancelable. I always say, who's my boss? I've been working for myself since 2005. I have my own, I books and movies, and I do my own stuff. You can't cancel me. I do what I want.
Exactly. And I have got friends all across the country. I could call them up at any minute and go and stay with them, and it's family. It's just your extended family. And the minute you say, if you're at an event, and the minute you say hi, you have a friend. It's for life.
Yeah,
I love
it. No, it's great. Nudists see more of their friends is always the bumper sticker. My friends who were naked together and we do events together, there's such a bonding, such a acceptance of who you are without any extra added, what are you supposed to be? What are you embarrassed of? What are you afraid of? That you're going to see some body parts that you don't normally see all the time, but they're still real and natural. And it's you without any artificial additives,
I had a friend many years ago who said, I can't believe that you get paid to take your clothes off. And we're not friends anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't have anything to do with I love what I do. I believe in naturism. I have daughters that my younger daughter is a little bit bigger than my younger daughter and than my older daughter, and I had to teach them about accepting your own body, and that's been a lot of fun.
I have a lot of friends that are actresses and models, and they always say that their fear is that, and they've said this to me directly, when people see me naked, they don't react the way they do when they see you naked. You know, in other words, like when they go someplace, they're attractive and pretty. And so like all these men are going to gather around and make them uncomfortable. And, you know, I never quite know what to say to that, because I want to be all rose colored glasses and happy, shiny sun. But that's one of the little annoyances I have about nudism in general, is it seems like people always focus on how happy and nice it can be, but sometimes it's not so.
Yeah.
I can't say that if I go alone to Black's Beach in San Diego, I'm going to get the same reaction as if I show up with two of my model girlfriends. There's going to be an entirely different environment.
Okay, but it would be like that if you had your clothes on too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like I think naturism is a great equalizer, and you can tell when you're with people who believe the way you do too. You know,
Sure.
it doesn't make any difference to me. I've been at gatherings where if it's cold, you put something on. If it's warm, you take it off. And sitting in a circle, dancing, swimming, whatever, it doesn't make any difference. And you're all the same.
Well,
It's
this
great.
is why I would love to talk about something that I've noticed, and it's been a topic of conversation amongst some of my nudist buddies, you know, Corky and Stefan, and people who run nude bed and breakfasts and resorts. It seems like, and we just got the news recently about another closure of a resort. It seems like, and I can list, you know, a couple that I wrote down just real quickly before we hopped on here: Elysium, McConville, Swallows, and now De Anza Springs. Does it seem like there's not enough support from nudists? Are they not interested in patronizing and in camping anymore? Because while at the same time it seems like we're losing resorts, the events that are socially nude seem to be on a high. The World Naked Bike Ride is a big deal. Hundreds of people come out to experience that. I participated in Beta Breakers this year, and there were hundreds of nudists there. So what do you think this says about the climate right now?
Well, I think we're trying to compare apples and oranges, and I think I understand what you're saying, and I don't. I think that as far as naturist members going, you know, everybody always says, "Oh, the graying of naturism." When I first started going to events, everybody had gray hair except for me, you know. So, younger people aren't joining, but they don't join anything. It doesn't make any difference about naturism. And I know, you know, Morley will say, "Oh, I've got all kinds of young people," but they don't join the national organization. I give away free memberships to people that go to Morley's event. We give away 3 every day, and they join, and I send them one magazine, and then they move, and they don't let us know that they've moved. So we send another magazine, and we have to pay to get it back. They never renew. We have never had one young person who got that free membership that renewed. I think they can go to a beach because maybe they're more anonymous at a beach. And if you go to a club, you're going to see the same people all the time. And some clubs are different. Some are, I'm sure that Stefan has a whole different group of people that come than some of the other ones. Now, De Anza, Mark and Kathy just were at De Anza. They loved it, but the people who bought De Anza bought it to make money. And I don't think they were making the money that they thought they were going to,
Right.
which is too bad, because Mark and Kathy just had a blast. In fact, he wrote an article that now I have to pull from the next issue because I'm not going to promote them if they're going textile.
Right.
It's not what I'm here for. So I don't know. I think take Laguna del Sol. Wayne and Suzanne are doing a great business there, and at Mira Vista. they're both going really strong. So I think it's area wise. And again, the group of people that come, people are just aging out. That's my, I'd like to, I never wanted to focus on the 18 to 20-year-olds. I was always more interested in like the 35 to 45s.
Okay.
Because then they're bringing their families, which is what you want.
Sure.
But it's hard, they're in that, they're buying their house and do they really want to go to a nature's place every weekend? They're different people. But as long as I've worked there, it's been cyclical. We've had years where we run along really smoothly, and then you dip down, and then you go back up. And COVID, we really took a hit.
Well, that's one of my things that I'm grr about. There is a nudist resort club here in Las Vegas that is a swingers compound, and they are members of ANR, and they are advertised in your magazine. And I've told people about them, and I've had text messages from them, I've had emails from them, I've showed Eric Shutoff, and I've given proof. But the explanation I got was, and I'm not going to mention anybody's names, but I was told that because of COVID and because of the nature of the way things are, we've lost so many clubs and we've lost so many groups that we want to hold on to the ones that we can. So people are willing to look the other way if Tuesday night is swinger night, which I have a lot of issue with that, because I am a card carrying real nudist, that I practice what I preach. And I feel like if somebody belongs to a nudist organization that says they're about non-sexual nudity, and they look up where are the places that are following this principle, and then they show up and they get the kind of reaction I got, which was my introduction to this guy. I said, I'm interested in coming, and he said, great, find a cute girl and come join us. So it was gross on two levels. On one, it was homophobic, because he was assuming my couple would be a girl. What if I was two dudes and we were both nudists? And then the other thing was, of course, the swinging on certain days.
Send me an email after this and tell me that place, because they'll be removed. I've never had a complaint, so let me know.
Before I did my lifetime membership, they're the people I was talking to you about. Because I said I would love to get into some of the more controversial stuff in nudism, because there are things that I see that irks me. I get annoyed with this kind of stuff.
Well, that's interesting, because I love Mark to death.
Yeah,
but he wouldn't know a swinger if it bit him in the butt.
Okay.
So if he goes someplace and I'll say, just check this place out, he'll, oh yeah, it was great. And I'm like, no, it's not. So yeah, that would be helpful.
That'd be great. Well, I looked at buying a former land. Do you remember Desert Sun Rancheros? That was out here in Nevada.
No.
So it was a nudist resort around the 70s, and it lasted for like 30 years, something like that. But it's been vacant for the last 20 or so. And I visited, I sent video to Clothes Free, and I was in negotiations about buying it. They have, RV hookups and cabins and a big pool and all this kind of stuff. And I'm contemplating getting into the bit, because one of the reasons is I feel like we need a good nudist resort in Las Vegas, because living here, everything's sex related. It's very strippers and porn and the porn awards and all this. I'd like to bring back, we couldn't even do the World Naked Bike Ride. People couldn't, where did they have it out of? The Erotic Heritage Museum. It's like, just cut our legs out from under us, So I'd love to be a force for that.
And that is Tim Chizmar interviewing Nikki Hoffman, part 2 of their interview next week. And we thank you very much for being with us today on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 29 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts, and also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, any place. And we thank you for being with us today. Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here, and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all. Remember to enjoy being naked, and join us again for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Have a great clothes-free day.